Welcome back to another episode of the Crossover U College Hoops Talk podcast, which you can find as always right here on the Crossover channel. My name is Kanaye Tesoro, and on today's episode, we get to talk about someone who was probably the number one, if not number one, then a top three draft deadline decision. Someone who me and Josh talked about in a lot of our segments and the videos that we've done together the last few weeks. That guy being Yaxel Lendeborg, who has committed to Michigan, was committed to Michigan before he entered the draft and went through that whole combine process. He's a guy who I honestly thought was leaning more towards staying in the draft. I definitely felt he should have came back to school, so I think he is making the right choice here and going to Michigan. But he was previously at UAB where he was really good. But again, I thought he was going to stay in the draft. He had a really good combine, and I know a lot of NBA scouts viewed him as a first round pick. If not first round, then definitely fringe first round. Maybe could have gone in the 30 to 40 range. I think that's the furthest he would have slipped. I just think that it's tough to turn down hearing the feedback that you're going to be a first round pick. Just considering that NBA teams don't like it when players are a little bit older when they're coming out of school. And again, if you're valued as a first round pick right now, there's no guarantee you're going to be valued as a first round pick next year. But I do very much feel this is the right choice for Yaxel to make, considering the year that Danny Wolf just had. And Yaxel did actually mention that as part of the reason why he came back, which I'll get into in this episode. But before we get into that, if you like any of this content you see on this channel, then please, as always, engage with our content any way you can. Like the video, subscribe to our channel, tell other people about it. It really does help being able to get these videos out to a larger audience. So let's not waste any more time and talk about Yaxel's decision. He ultimately, of course, decided to come back to school, play for Dusty May in Dusty May's second year coaching the Michigan Wolverines program. I think Dusty May now, with Yaxel officially coming back to school, has done an amazing job this offseason. That actually has Michigan, for me, on the cusp of being a top 10 team. Potential might honestly be a top 10 team. There's just been so many moves that have gone on in the last week or so, especially the last few days. I really got to lock in and hammer down my updated top 10, which already needs to get updated from what me and Josh put out last week. But this past season at UAB, Yaxel averaged 17.7 points per game, almost 12 rebounds, and 4 assists. Really talented player, and just how he's all around in every facet of the game can really do a lot. He can step out and hit the three. While not the most efficient, he definitely can. Shot 35, almost 36% from three this past year, 75% from the line. Like I just talked about, really skilled at being able to get on the glass, and he can do a lot of playmaking as well with the 4 assists per game. He's also a great defender as well. 1 point, nearly 2 blocks a game this past year, almost 2 steals. So he's going to bring so much to the table for Dusty May in Michigan this next year. He's 6'9", 240 pounds, so a great frame to be playing the 4 spot. Super excited to see, and I think that there very much is the cast, the mold that's there for him to kind of be the next Danny Wolf for Dusty May, just with what Danny Wolf was coming in and being essentially a 7 foot point guard with the playmaking and ball handling that Danny Wolf brought at that size. Yaxel is a little bit shorter than Danny, of course, now being 6'9" as opposed to 7 foot. But he's going to bring a lot of ball handling. He's going to bring a lot of playmaking too, the same way that Danny Wolf did this past year at Michigan. And Danny Wolf was able to play himself into being a potential lottery pick, if not top 20. Then I don't see why Yaxel can't do the same thing. I'd argue Yaxel honestly looks like a better pro prospect than Danny Wolf did when Danny was coming over from Yale and going over to Michigan to join Dusty May. Now, I will say I really do like. I know I just talked about it. Yaxel's ball handling. I definitely feel like for someone of his size in college, you don't expect him to be have as good as a ball handled as Yaxel does. He has a really great job. He does a really great job of breaking guys' natural fours, wings down for again because they're probably not expecting someone of his size to be that caliber of a ball handler. So he does a great job in breaking guys down. Really great first step, really explosive, and he can really just elevate once he gets into the paint and punch it down on the rim, throw down some really nice dunks. And I gotta say, I'm just super excited to see him play in the maize and gold, the maize and blue this upcoming year. And again, going back to Dustin May, I think he's done a great job in the portal. He's added Elliot Cadeau, who I think could end up being not the. I don't mean by best player. When I say this, I don't mean best player, but I think Elliot Cadeau could is probably going to end up being the most important player for this team. I feel like what Michigan does this season is heavily reliant and tied hand in hand with how much Ellie Cadeau can improve. If he's the same player he was in North Carolina, I don't think Michigan is going to be all that good this year. But if he can take a leap and play better at Michigan than he did at UNC, then I definitely think Michigan has a chance to be a perennial top 10 team this year. You have LJ Kaysen, who's probably going to come off the bench for Elliott, I would assume. You are also adding Trey McKinney, who I think has a chance to be really, really good at the guard spot. And I mean, in the front court, along with Yaxel Lendeborg, you're gonna have really two talented centers who are going to be competing for minutes. You might even see one play at the four, just considering, or maybe at the three. We'll see how it works with maybe Yaxel playing the three and one of these centers playing the four. But between those guys, it's Morez Johnson from Illinois and Ade Mara from UCLA. Two guys who are uber talented and I think haven't showcased everything that they can do just yet. So I'm super excited to see how those guys play now that they are at Michigan. So overall, like I talked about at the beginning of this episode, I really do feel that this was one of the most important draft deadline decisions that had to be made by a player who was on the fence about going pro or staying in school. So I really do feel that this was the best decision for Yaxel. Um, I know I mentioned the thing that I had seen where I believe it was Sleepers Media who covered and reported it, or I forget, but Yaxel had said that, came out and said that he saw what Danny Wolf did this past year at Michigan, was watching games, and he said, "Oh, I mean that could be me. That should be me." And that wasn't like in any way a slight at Danny Wolf. That was more of like an appreciation or token of respect for what Danny Wolf was able to do this past year at Michigan. And I very much feel that the cast, the mold is there for Yaxel Lendeborg to have a Danny Wolf esque season, potentially even better, just because I feel like Yaxel has more athletic upside than Danny did, and maybe even has a more of a scoring mindset than Danny necessarily ever did as a collegiate player. And I think he has a chance to have a really, really great breakout year at the high major level, which I think is another aspect of why Yaxel chose to come back. Just considering, yeah, he was a really good college player, but he still hasn't proven himself necessarily just yet at the high major level. Of course, he's coming over from UAB, who is a mid-major school. And if he's able to do that and kind of put himself on the map across the eyes of sport of fans and people who cover the sport, then maybe have an All-American type of season, potential National Player of the Year. Who I definitely think I'm starting. I'm going to start the campaign for Yaxel Lendeborg, National Player of the Year bandwagon, where I definitely think he could be there with the likes of Braden Smith and JT Top and both those guys. I think Yaxel Lendeborg has a chance to be right there with both of them and have a really huge year in Ann Arbor. So I'm really excited to see him play. Again, I think Dustin May's done a really good job now. Now that we know that Yaxel will be playing in a Michigan Wolverines uniform this upcoming year. And overall, I think he's done a really solid job in the portal. I do. This is another team that kind of I do feel is somewhat of a I need to see it to believe it type of team where okay, you see the semblance of some pieces which could make sense and could work, but I need to see how they all fit and play together to really believe. And again, I think so much of Michigan's season and how good they are as a team and program are going to be so really reliant and tied to Ellie Cadeau's leap that he potentially makes this upcoming year for Michigan, and how much he progresses from what we saw out of his tape at UNC. But again, I think Yaxel made the right choice here. I just this is what I would have advised him to do, just considering how much he's going to be making NIL wise. And you look at the player development of and what they did with Danny Wolf this past year, and how much Yaxel seems to trust both Dusty May and the rest of his assistants and coaching staff. I just overall think it's going to make for what could be a really, really electric year in Ann Arbor for Michigan. But again, I think that takes care of everything I have for this episode today. Please, as always, engage with our content any way you can. It really does help. And until the next episode, I'll see you all next time.